Just gonna do a quick mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody good? Yep. All right, we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Thank you.
You guys all ready? Good morning, everyone. As LMPD disclosed, late last week, LMPD and federal law enforcement partners began an investigation of 2 structures on Applegate Lane in the Highview neighborhood, just south of the Outer Loop and just north of the Gene Snyder Freeway. It was the result of citizen tips and proactive, rapid police work. I'd like to speak with you about what the results were of that investigation and where we go from here. After a search of the location at Applegate Lane, law enforcement officials located many chemical substances, some explosive in nature, and others which can be used to make explosive substances. It's believed that the owner of the property has been in possession of these materials for some time, in some cases, for several years. While this is a potentially dangerous situation, I want to stress that the property is now secured with a perimeter fence that we installed and an around-the-clock presence of LMPD. I visited the site yesterday myself, along with other members of my administration. In short, while there are dangerous materials inside, the site is more secure and safer than it has been in years. And right now, we believe there is no immediate threat to the public. Our attention is now focused on getting this situation resolved as soon as possible, and more importantly, as safely as possible. Safety of the neighbors, safety of our law enforcement and other first responders, and the safety of our entire city is our priority. I want to point out that if not been for the determined hard work of LMPD, acting on tips from concerned citizens, we would not have been made aware of the presence of these potentially dangerous materials. Some people saw something suspicious, contacted LMPD, LMPD investigated, and found a situation that could have been very dangerous. For that, we're grateful. And I want to thank them for their effort, and I want to thank the men and women of LMPD for their work in keeping this community safe. Our chief of LMPD will have a little more to say about this shortly, but I just want to reiterate that once again, if you see something, say something. Our community's help with providing information to LMPD is an important way that we make our community safer. So now let me tell you a little bit about this site. I have reviewed pictures from inside the home, and it is extremely cluttered, with garbage and other items all over the place. It appears to be the home of an extreme hoarder. I mention this because the clutter and dispersed presence of volatile chemicals, combined with the hot, heavy, and cumbersome personal protective gear that must be worn by any personnel who would enter the home, make it a very challenging location to make safe. In short, it is simply not safe for our specially trained LMPD officials or anyone to manually remove and dispose of all of the potentially material that is currently inside this home. Further, continued use of robots is not an option given the amount of clutter throughout the house. There are, however, actions that we can take to protect our city and to remove the potential dangers from this structure as quickly and as safely as possible, with as little disruption to our community as possible. Again, our focus is on the safety of the neighbors, the safety of our law enforcement and fire department personnel, the safety of our entire city. So this starts with declaring an emergency, which I did yesterday afternoon. By declaring a state of emergency, Louisville Metro government and our partners are able to move as quickly as possible to do what we need to do to ensure that no one is hurt and this situation is resolved. At my direction, Metro Code Enforcement has also executed an emergency demolition order for the house and the detached garage located at 6213 Applegate Lane. Additionally, Louisville Metro has spent and will continue to spend considerable resources on this matter. This declaration may help offset some of these costs. Our team that's been working on this has been advised by our experts at LMPD, experts at the Federal Bureau of Investigation from across the country and here locally, and several other state and federal agencies, including the University of Louisville. And Jody Myman will speak more about those who have been advising us in a moment. The unanimous view is that the only option to safely proceed is to incinerate the chemicals inside the home by setting a planned, monitored, and controlled burn of the house, which will combust any chemicals that are present within the home. I have been assured that this is the safest way to deal with this situation. Again, after consulting with experts from many agencies and many jurisdictions, it is clear that this is the only way to safely proceed. This is a process that will take a little time to implement safely and correctly, and it will not happen until my team and I are satisfied that this will be conducted in the safest, most efficient manner, and that we have identified and mitigated any risks. I think this is a good time to reiterate that this structure and its contents are more secure now than they have been over the past several years, and it's under constant surveillance, so we do have some time to appropriately continue the planning on this matter. The health and safety of our neighbors in and around Highview, and the health and safety of our first responders and emergency personnel are our top priorities. We will be holding a community meeting next week for neighbors to talk about this monitored and controlled burn of the home and how we will be ensuring the health and safety of our community. We will announce the location, day, and time of this community meeting later this week. And we'll be reaching out to the community on the phone, through email, through texting, and also going street to street, door to door, knocking on doors to make sure people in the vicinity are aware of what's going on and what we're planning to do. I want to speak very briefly about the person who is responsible for this whole situation. I want the community to know that he is currently in jail, charged with wanton endangerment, and from what I understand, other charges are being considered as well. It's important for everyone to know that no matter what happens, he is not going to get near that house. He has a do not contact order with the house, as well as with any type of explosive. So even if he were to get out of jail on bail, if he went anyone near the house, law enforcement will be there waiting for him. As I mentioned, the house is currently under 24/7 surveillance by LMPD. So let me now turn it over to Chief Jackie Gwynn Billerowell to talk a little bit about the police work that uncovered this situation and what they're doing to keep this location safe. Chief? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Before we do that, we are going to briefly translate The summary of what I just said, Sal from Public Works is going to give a Spanish translation of some of my remarks, as many Spanish-speaking individuals live around the Highview neighborhood, and so we wanted to be sure to provide some of this in Spanish. So first, Sal will speak, and then Chief Gwyn Villarroel. Sal?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Good morning, buenos días. Lo siguiente es un resumen de los puntos que el alcalde Greenberg ha mencionado acerca de la situación que se ha desarrollado, una situación peligrosa que se ha desarrollado en la calle Applegate, en la vecindad de Highview, que potencialmente podría afectar la salud y seguridad de todos los residentes en esa comunidad. Primero que nada, a fines de la semana pasada, el Departamento de Policía de la ciudad y otras autoridades legales, policiales, federales y estatales descubrieron una situación peligrosa que en cierta casa se encontraban materiales peligrosos y potencialmente explosivos que ponen en peligro la seguridad y salud de esos alrededores en esa comunidad. El alcalde quiere, el mensaje principal que quiere mandar es de que la situación está bajo control, está estable y no hay peligro inmediato a esos en la comunidad. No obstante, la situación tiene que ser resuelta y hay varios pasos que han sido recomendados para poder resolver esta situación de una manera que no impacta la salud y bienestar de los vecinos ahí en la comunidad. Y el punto final es de que esa situación se puede ser resuelta por medio de darle un incendio, o sea, incendiar el local de una manera controlada y obviamente bajo la revisión y monitoreo de las autoridades del medio ambiente, de la policía, del departamento de bomberos, para asegurarse de que el peligro no extienda más allá. Y el último mensaje es de que queremos mencionarle, decirle, recomendarle a los ciudadanos, a los vecinos, de que se ha establecido un parámetro de seguridad en esa zona y se les advierte, se les pide de que no se acerquen a esa zona debido que respeten la franja, el perímetro que se ha establecido, y eso es todo por su seguridad, su bien y su buena salud. Gracias.
Good morning, and thank you for helping us update the community on this important issue of public safety. Let me start by saying that the security and well-being of our residents and neighbors is LMPD's top priority, and we have been working diligently with our federal, state, and local emergency service partners to resolve this issue with the least amount of impact to the public. LMPD detectives received several crime tips regarding a person possessing dangerous chemicals and making homemade explosives at 2 houses on Applegate Lane. Officers identified the individual and constructed a plan to go into the location and develop probable cause. Undercover investigators spoke with the subject, who invited them into 6211 Applegate. At that time, he then showed the investigators an explosive compound identified by the subject as picric acid, a highly sensitive explosive. The officers were then able to get a search warrant for the properties occupied by the suspect. Last Thursday morning, Mark Hibble was taken into custody at his home, and our officers executed the search warrant accordingly. The house at 6211 Applegate was primarily used by Hibble as his residence. However, he does not own that property. Currently, we believe that he was a squatter at that house. Officers warned neighbors to shelter in place for a short time, as LMPD's bomb squad then explosively reduced the picric acid along with another unknown explosive. The warrant included 6213 Applegate, which is owned by Hibble. This location contained the bulk of the chemicals, lab equipment, and other items used to make explosives. Let me be clear, 6213 Applegate is an absolute hoarder house. And due to the large amounts of explosive materials and industrial-grade chemicals in a hoarding environment, it is extremely difficult to clear the area safely. For the safety of the community and the investigators, the decision was made to stop the search for more evidence. At this time, the houses are secure. The officers are present to keep the area safe. Officers charged Mr. Hibble with wanton endangerment in the first, with other possible charges pending. The chemical experiments conducted by Hibble were reckless and highly dangerous. Those experiments are over. And because of that, the area is safer now than it has been in years. I want to emphasize how essential the community was in this investigation. This is truly a case of see something, say something. Concerned citizens alerted us to what was going on in these homes. I reiterate that. Concerned citizens contacted us as to what was going on in these homes. And we cannot thank the neighbors who called on us enough. The community also showed tremendous patience and support by offering our officers food and water as they worked to safely secure the properties. I want to thank the investigators who used exceptional police work to secure the warrant. Investigators risked their own personal safety and work in extremely hazardous environments to help secure the area. We are grateful to our local, state, and federal partners for their hard work and assistance. If we want to list them out, we can't do all of it at this time, but I just really want to say to our emergency management assistant officials, Fern Creek Fire Department, our bomb squad with LMPD, Homeland Security officers, thank you, and additional resources. Lastly, we want to encourage everyone who knows of a suspicious activity in their neighborhoods to use our LMPD tip line at 502-574-LMPD. Or you can also call Crime Stoppers at 502-582-2583. Thank you all for helping us get the word out to our community and allowing us to keep everyone safe.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thanks to everyone on LMPD and all the law enforcement agencies that have been working on this case for several days now and for continue to. You know, tonight happens to be LMPD's night out, where LMPD goes out into the neighborhoods. So no better night than tonight to those in the community to come out, to meet members of LMPD, to thank them for their hard work, and to get to know them even better. Through these types of relationships, we can continue to build on what we have here, where concerned citizens are reaching out to LMPD to help keep our city safer. Now I'd like to introduce Jody Myman. Jody leads Louisville Emergency Management Services, and he's going to talk a little bit about the partners that we've been working with to ensure that we deal with this situation safely as we move forward. Jody?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I'm Jody Myman, the Executive Director here for Louisville Metro Emergency Services, and I'm also serving as a member of the Unified Command during this operation. We've been working closely with our local, state, and federal partners, along with the Mayor's office and his team, to coordinate a safe response to the incident on Applegate Lane that you've heard about already this morning, to provide for safe operations for the community and safe especially for our first responders as well. Along with our federal partners at the state level, we've had many great partners as well, including Kentucky Emergency Management, the Energy and Environmental Cabinet, and the Kentucky National Guard 41st CST, or Civil Support Team. Our emergency management agency is collaborating across Metro government with experts from Louisville Metro Police Department, Public Health and Wellness, Air Pollution Control District, Codes and Regulations, the County Attorney's Office, and Metro Councilman Jeff Hudson's office. And locally, we're working alongside the Fern Creek Fire Department, who's been great partners through all of this. I can't say enough about Chief Nathan Mulvey and Deputy Chief Scott Evans for their work that they've been doing since the very beginning of this. Thank you to everyone who has been involved and has been assisting with this ongoing investigation. In the coming days, we'll be using the many tools in our toolbox and the training and planning that we've prepared for situations like this to make the residents aware of an upcoming community meeting that you mentioned, that we mentioned earlier. That includes having first responders, myself, members of our organization, the mayor, and Councilman Hudson will be walking the neighborhood surrounding Applegate Lane to answer any questions and encourage residents to attend the upcoming community meeting that will be mentioned later this week. Being prepared is the best advice to keep the people safe around the area. And as always, anything that we get involved in, any type of emergency, we always like to mention our Lens Alert system, and that's the Louisville Emergency Notification System. It makes you, the citizens, aware of emergencies that can happen, and when we need to reach out to you, it's a good way for us to do that. This is the way we communicate with the public during any kind of emergency. These alerts can be received via text, email, calls, or push notifications. We have about 30,000 residents in Jefferson County that have signed up, but there's no reason that every resident should not be signed up for our Lens Alert system. You can text Lens Alert to 67283 to quickly register to receive these alerts. Being prepared and aware really does save lives. And while you're signing up for Lens Alert, please complete a Smart 911 profile, because the information that's gathered in there can save time when you call 911 and eliminate the possibility to have to ask more questions. You'll enter your information about your medications, pets in the house, and more information to help first responders get to you and get you the help you need a lot quicker. Smart 911 can also give us insight into additional assistance that residents may need, like power for a medical device or transportation that may be needed during certain situations. As this investigation continues moving forward, we will provide regular updates to the media and the public, and I want to again thank all of our local, state, and federal partners for the assistance they've given us so far. Now I'll turn it back over to Mayor Greenberg.
Thanks, Jody. And finally, this location is in the district of Councilman Jeff Hudson. We've been in close communication with Councilman Hudson and his office throughout this, so I'm going to call on him to say a few words before we take some questions from the media. Councilman Hudson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing succeeds like success when it is celebrated, and while there is still a lot of work to do, I think it's appropriate to take a moment to celebrate this success. There's not a day that goes by that somebody doesn't ask me, how can we make Louisville a safer city? I can summarize it in one word: collaboration. The collaboration of the citizens of Louisville, Metro government, and LMPD have made us safer today. A citizen saw something that didn't quite pass the sniff test, and that citizen said something. LMPD took that information and did the hard work that they are trained to do, led by this chief, equipped by this mayor, and took in short order what could have been a horrific event and turned it into what is basically a high-tech industrial cleanup. Make no mistake, we are safer today than we were yesterday. Mayor, Chief, on behalf of the citizens of District 23 and Metro Louisville at large, thank you for doing the hard work it takes to make this a safer city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, and the thanks also, as I know you've extended, really goes to everyone who has been working 24/7 over the past days since we were first made aware of this through the weekend and continued, and as it continues right now. So with that, we will take some questions from the media if you all have any.
Several questions about the demolition and burn. Do you have a timeline as to when that will start? How long do you think it's going to take? And does the neighborhood need to be evacuated during that?
So we do not yet have a time on when we are going to do this controlled and monitored burn of the home. As I mentioned earlier, we are planning, safety is our #1 priority. And so there's a lot that goes into this. This is not a common situation. And so both working to ensure that the burn of the house itself is planned, as well as we are working to identify and mitigate any risks that might be thought of in connection with that, is what all of these teams and all of these agencies from the state, federal agencies, locally, University of Louisville, others from the private sector are all working on, collaborating every day right now. And so we will have more information, and we will continue to keep the community and the entire city appraised as we have that. As I mentioned, we're going to have a community meeting next Tuesday. It will not be before then. We If we know when it will happen, some of it is weather dependent as well. But as soon as we know when it will happen, we will notify everybody. But it will not happen before the community meeting, before we have an opportunity to go door to door in the neighborhood to advise people of that community where more information will be provided. And if an evacuation, if a localized evacuation is prudent and necessary, we will do a localized evacuation if that is necessary right before and during the controlled burn. That is all being considered and being planned for at this time. And also, we will, if and when we do that, we will also be sure that there would be a shelter for people to go if and when that occurs for that short duration period of time, so that they can have access to air conditioning, water, food, and other things like that during the period where there might be cause for a localized evacuation.
Mayor, when you're looking at burning potentially hazardous chemicals, is there a further risk that there might be more explosions or that those chemicals might be disseminated out into the neighborhood much further?
All of those things that you just described are all of the things that our teams are working on right now. But and Jody or Chief, you can speak more to this if you would like, but all of the advice that we have received is that doing this controlled and monitor and planned burn will incinerate these chemicals at a very high temperature, and that is the safest path forward. And so that's why we're doing the analysis of what any kind of distance needs to be around it. It would be remotely set the fire, which is part of the reason why it takes additional planning to do this and why some more time is needed, given the challenges inside the home that you just heard about. So all of that is being taken into consideration as we continue with this planning.
Do you know what kind of plans the homeowner had with these chemicals, malicious or otherwise, or if he had any plans at all?
Chief, do you want to speak a little bit?
No, we don't. Right now, the investigation is still ongoing, but as of today, right now, we don't know whether or not he had any further plans with them. It was just that he was stockpiling these truly dangerous explosives and chemicals in his home.
Chief, did LMPD already blow up all of the picric acid, or is there more picric acid in the home?
What they discovered, they destroyed,
Yeah,
and that
use the
was it.
microphone.
I'm sorry. What they discovered, they destroyed.
So is there more in
No,
the rest?
right now, at this time, there's no more.
You all mentioned the two different addresses. Are both of those homes going to be burned?
No.
Or is this the 2613?
6213. So 6211 is the home that Mr. Hibble was living in, but as the chief noted, he was squatting. He did not own that home. He owns the home at 6213, which is the home that we both mentioned is the hoarder's home with clutter and debris everywhere, which is where the chemicals are located. The things that were in 6211 have been safely removed.
Mayor, could you speak to what you all know about Hubble right now, where he potentially got these chemicals from?
So he is currently in jail. Where he got the chemicals from, this is, yeah, this is still a ongoing criminal investigation, and so we are not going to release those details at that time with additional information about that.
Expect anybody else to be arrested in this case?
At-
Not at this time.
Yeah, at this time, we do not expect anyone else to be arrested. Roberto?
Obviously, these charges are very serious, and there's obviously a threat to the public. Can you just explain sort of what powers the city is relying on in state law or the city charter in order to essentially burn this man's house down?
So we are doing this under the authority granted pursuant to the emergency declaration that I signed yesterday afternoon. And so as I mentioned, pursuant to that emergency declaration, I have directed Metro Code Enforcement to issue the demolition order based on the unanimous advice of all of the agencies and experts that are involved, that this is the safest way to proceed for the health and safety of our community. Let me stress that again. Everything that we are doing, everything that has been done from the moment we found out about this and first entered the home, and LMPD officers understood the potential danger that they were dealing with, has been focused on the safety of the personnel that is involved with this case, the safety of the neighbors in and around Applegate Lane and the Highview neighborhood, and the safety of our entire city. And that will continue to be our focus. And that's why we have some time to deal with this, given the fencing around the home and the 24/7 surveillance that LMPD is doing on the home right now. We have ensured that this site is safer than it has been in years, and safety will continue to be our #1 focus as we move forward.
Are you saying that this place has to be burned down because there's too much clutter in the home for you to find any additional chemicals or remove the chemicals?
Yes, this has to be burned down because it is not safe, as the chief and I both mentioned. This location is, because of the clutter, this location is not safe for our personnel to remove and dispose of and find all of the chemicals that are located throughout this home. And we cannot use robotics any further because of the extreme amount of clutter in this hoarder's house. And so for those reasons, we need to implement a controlled and monitored burn to incinerate the chemicals that are in the house.
What kind of clutter are you talking about?
Picture a hoarder's house with debris and things just strewn all over the floors that are stacked up on top of each other, on top of other, materials. And so because of those impediments, we are unable to use robots, and that also makes it, anyone who enters this home has to wear a personal protective gear, which is hot and cumbersome and challenging to maneuver in. And so for those reasons, it's not safe to remove all of the chemicals in there. We've got time for about one more question from someone else who hasn't asked yet, if that's okay.
Yeah, Mayor Chief, for those who aren't experts in explosives, can you put into perspective, based on the volume of dangerous chemicals that he had, what the impact could have been had you all not been successful in catching things?
The chief can speak further to this, but we are still doing analysis on all of the volume that is part of the analysis that's going on right now, on the volume of material that is known to be within the home. But this was definitely a dangerous, potentially dangerous situation. And as the chief and I both mentioned, we believe this is more secure and safe than it has been in years. We have good reason to believe and to know that these chemicals have been in the home and in this detached garage for years.
Just like the mayor has stated, if we had not been involved in this, and again, going back to the community, really reaching out to us, and then for my personnel to do due diligence and actually following up on this could have resulted in a catastrophic event. We know that because of the volume that we potentially see right now, and again, is so much in that home. So we're just so grateful today that it is controlled, it is a secure, and put in this term, a secure lab at this point, and that we'll take the next steps in order to continue to render it safe.
Let me just say one final thing in conclusion, that our goal is to be very proactive and communicative around this entire situation. That's why we're here this morning, ensuring that the community is aware of this, that they are aware of where we are headed in the days ahead, and we will continue to keep the neighbors, to keep the entire community up to date on what is going on. We will have a date and time and location for the community meeting that we will announce later this week as soon as a location is secured and identified, and we will continue to be available with updates and to be responsive to questions that might have. We understand that there are many questions about this, and we will continue to answer the questions that arise in the days ahead. Thank you all very much, and again, thanks to all the professionals who have been involved in this challenging situation.